I've had quite a few encounters with presuppositionalists, and after having what seems to be the same conversations over and over again, I've reached a conclusion. Talking to presuppositionalists is useless. Now, I want to preface this with the idea that it could be useful in a way. For example, in a debate or public discussion, showing how dishonest of a position that presuppositionalists have can influence members of the audience in certain ways. However, if it's a private conversation between you and them, you might as well be talking to a wall. So I want to make the distinction between private and public discussions clear, and from here on out, I'll be talking about those private ones. Also, it can be argued that engaging with theists is productive, since a large amount of atheists once believed in God, and conversations with atheists may have been important in their process of shedding their faith. To this point, I would respond that in my interactions with presuppositionalists thus far, the presuppositionalist apologist is too ingrained in their position, and the moment they accept the premise God exists as being a presuppositional, unconditional truth, then no amount of empirical evidence or philosophical argument showing the contrary will be able to sway them from that position. The reason I think engaging with presuppositionalists is useless is because they are starting from an intellectually dishonest position. They claim to know what you believe. Regardless of what you do or say, they are coming from a position where they are dedicated to the idea that what you do or say doesn't matter. In their view, they already know what you believe, even better than you do.
When you come up to me and say you don't believe in God, and I present you with evidence, I'm saying that you're the judge. You're not the judge. God is the judge. All of you know that he exists.
Knowledge, as many presuppositionalists like to define it, is considered a true, justified belief. Therefore, whenever a presuppositionalist tells you that you know God exists, they are, by definition, saying you believe God exists. So no matter how clearly or explicitly you try to make your position, it doesn't matter, since nothing you are able to do can convince them that they are wrong. Which brings me to my second point. Presuppositionalists are unable to accept the idea that they may be wrong. This is important. You don't need to think you are wrong in order to accept that you maybe, as a fallible human being, hold a belief that isn't true. What presuppositionalists do is assert that God exists and that they cannot be wrong about that. So even if they are wrong, discussing such matters with them is pointless, since they will refuse to admit it or change their beliefs. But what if they're right? The presuppositionalist generally refers to truth as that which corresponds to the mind of God, or some such equally useless definition, and they claim to know what is true because it has been revealed to them in such a way that they can know for certain that it's true. Now, don't bother asking them how they know that, because I don't think you'll get an answer. But if you don't believe me, go ahead and try it. In every conversation I've had with presuppositionalists, they have failed to give me a means by which I, as a fallible, subjective human being, can determine which of my beliefs are revealed to me by God and which of them are not. So to say that I can know something since it's revealed to me by God, but then not providing me with a means of determining exactly which things are revealed to me by God and which are not, is useless. Now, to any presuppositionalist watching, before you start typing in the comments, let me continue. Some presuppositionalists say that Scripture is a revealed truth of God, and anything that contradicts it is not. Well, to that I would ask, how did you determine that? Quite often, this leads to the answer, because it says so in Scripture, or because God revealed it to me. Unfortunately, that does not provide me, or anyone else for that matter, with a means of actually determining truth from falsehood, since that argument could just as easily be made for quite literally any so-called holy scriptures or personal revelation. So to recap quickly, talking to presuppositionalists is useless because, right from the start, they're coming from an intellectually dishonest position, claiming to know what you do and do not believe. As such, they do not actually care what you have to say. In their minds, they know what you believe, and they're just trying to make you admit it. This is why so many conversations with presuppositionalists tend to follow the same sort of script, because to them, It doesn't matter what the other party actually says. They're too focused on fighting a straw man of their own construction, and as such, are unable to actually engage in an honest discussion. The last two reasons can be summed up in one thought, really. Talking to presuppositionalists is useless because if what they say is false, they are unwilling and unable to admit it. And if what they say is true, then they're unable to give us a means by which we can know it's true. In either case, the conversation is inevitably left on the same level as it started, and you've done nothing except to waste some of the very little time you have in which you can do things that actually matter.